All right. Hello, blues lovers. Welcome to Harp and Guitar, People and Music. And thank you very, very much for joining us here today for Blues Chat number 10. And basically, this came about because my partner in crime, Monk Music, here at Harp and Guitar, who'll be joining us very shortly, he and I started this channel 3 years ago already. So we thought, hey, what better way to sort of mark this occasion than to have another blues chat? Of course, we've been meaning to do this for quite a while now, and very often we'll get into a private chat on Hangouts or something, and inevitably we shall start discussing the blues and blues artists. And that's basically what led to this channel, right? That's what started our friendship, was our mutual love of the blues. And we became fast friends, and then we started this channel together 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago on the, I think on the 17th, December 17th. And we just have a lot of fun here at Harp and Guitar. You know, we, just goof around, uploading content. Monk's got a couple of great series that he's doing. Sorry, I'm just settling in here, getting comfy. Monk's got a couple of series that he's doing where he's working out different riffs and learning different chord progressions through listening to blues albums, blues CDs. And then he's got a bunch of videos that he's been uploading, of course, for these 3 years, where he talks about sort of he's the meat and potatoes. He's the practical application. I just blither on and tell stories. He's the one that actually puts the rubber to the road and plays his guitar and gives lessons. And those are the videos that he uploads. And then I upload just sort of blues history and talk about different artists and that sort of thing. So it's a very, what I think is a very well-balanced type of content that we have on here. And we're certainly glad that all of you have been joining in and enjoying the content, enjoying this beautiful music that we call blues for these 3 years now. And there he is. I see him there, my pal Monk Music. Let me just add him in. There he is. Hey, pal. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Yeah, you sound great on my end.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I'm late. I've just...
No, don't worry.
I do beg your pardon. Can't believe we got caught by time. Yeah, how's things? I was just hearing what you were saying, that you're about your gargantuan level of knowledge. It's just incredible.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I wouldn't say it's gargantuan. I mean,
I would.
For me, it's just my knowledge or my expertise or whatever you want to call it. And I wouldn't proclaim myself to be an expert, but I mean, it just comes from the fact that I'm 50. So since I was about 15 years old or so, I've been listening to the blues on my own, like buying my own records or cassettes at that time as well, in the mid 80s, and just buying books and reading books about B.B. King and John Lee Hooker. And I guess it's because I enjoy it and I'm passionate about it that I retain the information. I guess it's like anything else. I mean, you know firsthand, being what you do for a living in the real world, that there'll be people out there that excel in certain subjects because they're more interested in it, and perhaps don't do as well in other subjects because they find it boring or whatever, right?
True. If you're enthusiastic about something, you'll always be better at it or more interested in it or willing
Yeah.
to learn
I
it.
mean, you're much better of a musician than I can ever dream to be. And it's because you've got the years under your belt.
Mhm. Well, I absolutely. Well, you've seen the photograph of me with that Guitar Masters Volume 2. That was the only record I had for years.
Yeah.
And just played the groove off it till it went smooth. It was just glorious. Absolutely glorious. I couldn't name one track off it. Oh, yeah, the Garbage Man Blues would be the one. And
Right.
and I just love the way that, and it says it's Buddy Guy's brother. But
Yeah,
it's
Philip
not,
guy.
yeah, but it's not Philip Guy on the guitar. It's definitely Buddy Guy.
Well, they play very similarly.
Do they?
They
All right.
sound very similar, but um, you know what? I'd have to listen to it again. And I have that album on vinyl because that's one that you recommended to me, and I ended up finding it online and ordering it.
Do you remember that was on a live stream when I found it? The picture, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
I
right.
only
It
had
was
a
so
picture, and then I found that picture which I showed you
fun.
of me sitting on the bed back from work looking at the album. Ah, it blew my mind. That did. Unbelievable. Found it. I was nearly in tears.
Yeah, and you know what? The picture of the album made it easier for me to find because you know how it is, right? With these compilations of these blues albums, whether it's CD, vinyl, cassette, whatever the case may be, they've all got titles like Blues Masters Volume 6 or Blues Guitar Volume 3. So you Google it and you're getting a million hits and all the covers look different. So it was great to have the title of the album and what the album looked like. That made it great for me.
Well, for you.
And I'm glad that you recommended it to me.
Yeah, for years, all I could say, it was black and orange or black and yellow. I can't remember the dots on it. And,
yeah.
Oh, God, no, I can't. What's it called? Because I thought it was blues, it was blues guitar. And it was Blues Masters, wasn't it? I think. Is that right?
You thought it was Blues Guitar, but it was Blues Guitar Masters.
Masters, that's right. And
Volume 2, I believe.
Yeah,
and yeah.
The only clue I had was left-handed. The names, Left-Handed Frank
and Buddy Guy, Garbage Man Blues.
Yeah, there's only two. The two standout tracks for me, and I can't remember the name of it. Was the Left-Handed Frank because it was so harsh and raw. And the Buddy Guy Garbage Man Blues because it was, you know what? I don't go for that shit. And it really stuck with me. It really did.
Yeah.
And just played it for years. I mean, I played that thing. Oh, God, because there's a key change at the beginning of Garbage Man Blues. Starts in C and I think it moves to A. And it's just tremendous. It's great. And there's so few videos of Left-Handed Frank on YouTube. There's like 2, 3. There's none. There are none. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. A lot of these guys, they were big in their time in Chicago, let's say, for example, and they would sit in with Muddy or Buddy or whoever, Elmore James or whatever. But when those guys faded away, these guys that would sit in with them sort of faded away too. So guys like Left-Handed Frank, kind of fell into obscurity when a lot of the other guys either hit it big or passed away.
Amazing. Because they'd only be very young. They'd be sort of young enthusiasts, wouldn't they? I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, some of them tried to have solo careers too and didn't do so well, and some did exceptionally well. I guess it comes down to talent or how good of a bluesman you are or were, right?
It's amazing because some of the... Sorry. My bin underneath the desk. Lately, there was a picture in that blues book, the Harvey Vincent lead guitar book. And it always used to intrigue me. There's a guy with a harp and the diamonds at the back. And this is how, and folks, this is how just gargantuan and expert whiskey is. I said, oh, look at this. I said, where is that? That looks like a really basic gig. And you said, that's the Jazz Blues News Festival in Newport, 1967. You didn't even hesitate. You just went bang to the year. Unbelievable. That's the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, 1967 in Newport. Bass player's this, guitarist called this, and the old guy at the back's probably the uncle of the bass player. It's just a phenomenal level of knowledge. And for those who
again, that's the books that I've read too, right? And a lot of these books were written by guys who were not only authors but researchers and collectors. So they always had photos from their personal collections that they would include in their books. So it wasn't just a 300-page book or a 100-page book or whatever of just text. There would be a lot of photos throughout the book too. So-and-so with, Mississippi Fred McDowell or whoever, or so-and-so with Paul Butterfield. So I would see these pictures, and a lot of these pictures are pretty rare. So it kind of sticks in your head.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, don't blow the magic, Whiskey. It was impressive. I mean, even so. Oh, that's Paul Butterfield. Yeah, it's like a connoisseur. Oh, you are a connoisseur, an absolute expert. It's just tremendous. And like I said, I still feel like a fraud because I must have absorbed early on the play, and then over the last couple of years, as you know, since we got talking, I've been going back to the blues and recovering a whole load of stuff that has just appeared that I'd forgotten. And it's like having a religious experience almost, because it's just like, well, I can play this stuff. Where the hell's that come from? And you'll go, well, you must have been listening to such and such to get that, because this. I'm thinking, well, I don't remember that. Well, I know. Plus, I did jam a little bit with the band, but it's been such amazing journey recovering the play, because I can go from up here, go from up here on the neck to right up here on the neck and fly about, which was my objective with getting that Harvey Vinson book right at the start.
Yeah.
I had such a blessed 2 years, and with lockdown, I've been able to really practice. So
which is great.
Yeah, and the other thing I've learned how to do is play a riff in one place on the neck, and then play it somewhere else in the next bar, but with the transport in between. There's no electricity. These books will be great entertainment. Yeah, they are. AP 530, they are. Yeah, they're great. It's just great. That's my catchphrase. Honestly, I just find it so such a privilege, actually, to be part a tiny high Targacy, just a tiny part of where's the chat? 530 blues, indeed AP 530. So it's just a great thing to be part of, and a tiny little speck. Oh, there it is. Oh, it is orange. Buddy Guy, Eddie Kirk, left-hand Frank, Bobby Vavestria. That's the album of albums. Folks, if you can get that album, it's just magical. It's raw as anything. I think it was recorded in 1982 in London with a bunch of errant players. The guy top left, of course, needs no introduction.
Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy, the main man. Now, I think
there's his brother here.
His brother second in, and yeah, there we are. Well, they look similar if you look at the eyes and nose.
Yeah.
Unbelievable album.
There's Hound Dog Taylor there.
Yeah. Left-handed Frank, bottom left. Well, he's playing a left-handed guitar. That's a bit of a clue.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Wow. Have we got the B-side of that? Oh, it's so exciting. Amazing. Just great. It's so liberated. Yeah. And with YouTube, of course, there's been an absolute massive explosion of blues players, which is great. All these young kids playing.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. There's loads of young lads playing. In fact, my neighbour, who's a good singer, he jammed with him. He's now wandering up and down singing Paul Butterfield, born in Chicago. So I want to get it. I'm going to try and get a bit of a unit together in the new year. We'll see. I make no guarantees, but I've bagged a drummer as well. a really top class drummer. There's a couple I can get to gig, get to play. I'll certainly get to jam. One lad's called David. He's a hell of a player. I'm gonna do 5:30. It's great. You'll just play the groove off it. Get that album. You'll be grooving. The other lad, he's played all over the world. He's really, really good. Is Fraser, and wow, yeah, that'll be exciting because I've got Chris. Chris will play the bass. He's got quite a gift on the bass.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, he's a good bass. Well, I think you've met him, have you? Have I introduced you?
Yeah.
Oh, you'd have seen him on the videos anyway. So Chris is a dynamite bass player. He can play anything. Mike's gonna sing because he's got the voice. He can do a hell of a blues voice. He's got a good singing voice anyway. I'll play guitar stand. I'll be lads at back, and either Dave or Fraser at the back hitting the tubs.
Now let me ask you, because I know when I was living in the city, and people wanted to get blues bands together, there was a shortage of basically two musicians, a guitarist who could play electric and acoustic, but they could get by with just electric blues. So you'd have a really good blues guitarist, and he'd be in 3 local bands because he was kind of the best in town, sort of thing. And the other one was a good drummer, a good blues drummer. You had tons of rock and roll drummers or heavy metal drummers or whatever, but having a good blues drummer that could do the backbeat and the polyrhythms and the 2/3 time and 3/4 time and all that stuff was a little tougher to find. What's the situation like where you are? Is it that sort of thing as well, or is it pretty mixed and is not too bad?
If you have a fair reputation, you can find the drummers. If you it's throw 6 to get in the game, got to start and pay your dues around it. It's very artistic cities where I am. So I'm very, very blessed in that I know three extremely good blues-based drummers. So that's pretty rare. I did know Phil. One of them died, sadly. Rick died, which is very sad. That was very sad. But Phil is a cracking jazz drummer, so there's plenty of cross. He can do polyrhythms coming out of his ear holes. Fraser can do all the rudiments for everything. He's a very good drummer. There was Paul. Now, Paul, he moved down to the south. He was a cracking. He could sight read the Police. He could play 12 in one hand, 8 in the other, 4 in each foot. And Dave, he's very well cultured. So these guys I know are very, very good. And once they lock in with Chris and they get a vibe going at the back, it makes any guitar player look really good. It's true though. The essential part of any band is the drummer and the bass player, particularly those two working together. That's why. And by the way, we always used to put the bass player on the left, because if your bass player's on the left, he's close to the snare drum, which gives the backbeat.
Yeah,
very important. So having a bass player on the right, you very often see them looking a bit uncomfortable, and they sometimes don't realize it. But if you've got, like I said, you put the bass player on the left, he's hooked right into the snare drum. And they'll get closer. They'll get into
stage left. You're talking stage left.
Yeah, looking out looking from the audience point of view is on the right, but stage left.
Yeah,
and that we always had Chris on the left, and that really tightened things up.
See, there's a good tip for all you kids out there that want to start yourself a good blues or boogie woogie band.
Yeah, bass players go. Well, if you got a left-handed drummer, of course, the bass player will be on the right. But it does make a difference. It really does make a difference. So if you've got your drum and your bass tight, that's absolutely crucial. I've often, we had a 3-piece band, right? So there's 3 voices, bass, drums, guitar. And when we gigged, I'd just stop playing the guitar sometimes, just sing over the bass. And then bring the guitar back in slowly.
Sure. Why not?
And this is why to me, the blues is so magical because get the bass going and peel it right back. I'll tell you who's good at that. Who was good at that? Rory Gallagher. Rory Gallagher and his band. That was a tremendous. They were so tight.
Yeah,
The thing is, the bass player was always on the right.
Well, Rory Gallagher's always been. Sorry, Gallagher. He's Irish or Scottish or whatever. Yeah, Gallagher.
Irish people.
His band prior to his solo career, Taste, I believe they were called. They were a great sort of bluesy rock band anyway. So I mean, his blues guitar playing goes way back.
Oh yeah, there's pictures of him being a little kid, about 9 or 12, something like that, with a suit on and playing away.
Yeah.
Mind you, it started like that as well, didn't he? Jimi Hendrix. There's pictures of him with it. Who was the band he played with Jimi Hendrix?
Isley Brothers.
Yeah, there's another one as well. Sure, with Bootsy Collins. Did he play with Bootsy Collins? Or was Bootsy Collins in a band, joined a band with Eric Clapton? With you know who Bootsy Collins is doing?
Yeah, I know who Bootsy is. Yeah.
Yeah, with the boots and the eyes and the specs. And
Yeah.
Great singer, actually. You heard him sing?
Yeah, he's not bad. Yeah, not bad. He's a good bass player for sure.
Cracking bass player.
Plus, he's got a great. Obviously, has a great stage presence.
Oh, brilliant!
He's an excellent performer.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, it was on that Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, the story of Motown. He sang, "Do you love me? Do you love me now that I can dance?" Have you ever seen that? Bootsy Collins. He's got this top hat and his specs with stars and big boots on.
I've seen him, but I don't think I've seen that one.
So funny. Anyway, so like I said, the drummer and the bass player, they've got to be tight.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else is an add-on.
Now, do you... there's got to be... I've seen some great ones coming out of England, so there's got to be, again, sort of in your area, there's got to be some harp players, some harmonic players.
That's what I was coming to. Mick's a harp player, but the best harp player, he was in fact, he's so good he was presented to the Queen, believe it or not, is Ben Ruth. Now, if you Google Ben Ruth, I think I videoed him in a live streaming from the pub.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Ben Ruth is a hell of a harp player. He's just incredible. His band's called, I can't remember. I should have seen him often enough. I've seen him about 10 times.
9 Below Zero.
No. That's Dennis Greaves. Oh. But I've met him a couple of times. Once in 1984, once in 2018. I said, "Hi, Dennis. Do you remember me?" He went, "No." I said, "Well, I'm not surprised. Last time we talked at the bar was 1984." When he was with another band. 9 Below Zero, great blues band. And really underrated too. Really underrated. Great.
Yeah, they got their name from Sonny Boy Williamson's song, 9 Below Zero.
Well, Dennis is good guitar player.
That's the picture for our channel picture, our channel avatar next to the channel name. That's Sonny Boy Williamson #2. Yeah. 9 Below Zero.
So, now check them out, folks. I think I put a bit of footage of them on the site, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have recorded more. But anyway, I was too busy enjoying myself. It's really good. What was I saying before? Yeah, no one there. So Ben Ruth, he's really, really good. If anybody wants to look him up, what's his bloody name? His band's called something like the Invincibles or the.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not familiar with that.
Because Phil, who was a drummer, I used to play with. He toured with them. And they went to Chicago into the real deep roots.
South side to Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. And they had to have an armed escort because he was the white guy's going into a black dominated area, and which is fine, you know. He said it was quite scary, but what an atmosphere! He says, "Oh God, I'm so envious. I'm so envious."
Juke joints and blues clubs have always been rough, though. Even if you go back to,
Yeah.
the birth of recorded blues, where blues sort of started gaining popularity in the mid to late 1920s, and people got more exposed to blues because some of the musicians that roamed around made enough money through their performing to buy records, and that's how they learn new songs. And then, of course, traveling around and meeting other musicians, they would swap songs or swap techniques or whatever. And the blues really started getting very, very popular. And you started seeing these little juke joints pop up at important intersections of, Highway 61 and Route 22 or whatever. There, if it was a sort of a major intersection, there'd be maybe a barbecue shack with a juke joint and a gas station that would pop up there. And there would always be a juke joint with maybe a rib pit in the back, or they'd serve barbecue. And even during Prohibition, they would serve alcohol. It was just on the down low, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that carried over into the cities when a lot of these blues performers, blues patrons started moving north into Illinois and Missouri and Wisconsin and, all of these northern states, Michigan, so on. They brought that juke joint idea to the cities, to the inner cities. So they'd have house rent parties, or people would be able to scrape up enough to open a blues club. And one was just as rough as the other because they had to police themselves. So if somebody got disorderly, whether it was at a country juke joint in 1932 or whether it was in a city blues club on Beale Street in 1954, it was the patrons and the bartender staff that would throw out, the unruly or the troublemakers. And sometimes the musicians would get in on it. In Buddy Guy's book, he talks about playing at some Chicago blues clubs, and he and Junior Wells and a couple of other performers getting into fistfights and kicking out people that were coming in with knives to start trouble. And this isn't that long ago. This is the late 60s, early 70s on the south side of Chicago and on the west side of Chicago.
Well, he like I said, he described it as pretty rough.
Oh, yeah. That's why blues joints and juke joints had nicknames like Bucket of Blood. Let's go down to the Bucket of Blood and go and see old Charlie Patton play, because, well, there's a couple of reasons why that term Bucket of Blood came to be, but one of them was that so many people got shanked or stabbed or knifed throughout the night that there was enough blood to fill a bucket. And the other is just that after somebody got stabbed or shanked or whatever, and they were cleaning up the mess, the bucket of hot soapy water looked like a bucket of blood by the time you were finished cleaning the floor. But in either case, it's a rough joint if they refer to it as a bucket of blood, right?
Yeah, that's pretty rough, to say the least. I know. I sent you a picture of our old juke joint. It's shut up now. It's completely gone.
Yeah.
A real shame. When we did have a really jumping joint called the John O'Gaunt, and it's gone. They changed owners, and it was pure blues, and they've ruined it because they tried to get some rock bands in. They tried to get the kids in with the popular synth, and it was rough. It wasn't rough. It was a great place to go to listen to blues, and now the standards nosedived. Well, now it doesn't exist, does it? It's shut.
Yeah.
You can't go. Well, but to last year in this silly COVID nonsense.
But you're talking pre pre-pandemic. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Before that.
That's like the little juke joint that was here, even my little community.
Mm.
They closed down a couple of years ago. Well, he didn't. Technically, he didn't close down. What he did is he opened a location in the city first, and after about a month or two, things started to take off in the city, and he knew it was going to be okay. Then he closed the one here. But the one here had been here for 20 years or more. And it was literally at the end of my block. Uh, I'm talking one, two, three, four, five doors down and turn the corner. And you're right there. It's on the corner. And just at this little intersection by the train tracks, kind of nowhere. There's nothing really that much around, just houses. And it'd been there for 25 years as a juke joint. Before that, it was a Louisiana style cuisine restaurant where they served like gumbo and stuff like that. And they would have live music there on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And it was usually Cajun music or blues music or jazz or traditional Dixieland jazz. It sort of fit in with the type of food they were serving. That Southern Cajun style food. And I
Oh
think a
yeah.
lot of people started coming back not only for the food and the menu, but for the music. And one of the guys whose bands used to perform there ended up buying the place, and he just switched it over to a juke joint. He put in some pool tables, a couple of dartboards. He expanded one side of it a bit and put in a dance floor with a small, you call it a stage, but it's really only a few inches high. But he put in, spotlights and a pretty good sound system and a larger bar. And he got rid of a lot of the seating. It was more just pub style seating or nightclub style seating. It wasn't restaurant style seating anymore.
I understand.
Yeah.
Because well, you get more people in for kickoff.
Yeah. Well, and because once the music started, the live music started, at 7 p.m., they'd move some of the tables off of what was the dance floor and away you'd go. And for years, I'm talking 20 years, he had live blues music or blues related, like jazzy blues or rhythm and blues or soul music, live local musicians 7 days a week.
Yes.
Sundays were an open jam. Anybody could just jam together. But Monday to Saturday, he had, local acts from other cities and towns in Alberta or close by in BC or Saskatchewan. And they'd come and they'd play 2 nights and then, they'd continue on their way. And it was great.
There's something magical about live music. And live music, beer and food, you can't, it's just, I say it so many times, it's just great. I mean, there's so much to follow with the blues band, you could think, because especially if you're a player or in your case an aficionado and a player, so you can really get behind something. Well, that's tasty. And I never really used to get it as a younger man, but now I've played a bit. And you see, that kid's got some moves.
Well, the great thing about a live
the skill as well. Sorry.
The great thing about a live performance, whether it's at a big show or it's at some little neighborhood watering hole, is that you're there. It's live. The musician knows it's live, and they can. There's that back and forth between the audience and the artist. And there's that nice flow of energy that you don't necessarily capture when you're listening to records or CDs or streaming music or whatever the case may be. As good as a song and as great as a musician they might be. And the great thing about something like that little juke joint that used to be here and the one that used to be in your neighborhood is that it plays double duty. It's a blues bar, or was in our cases a blues bar specifically, but it also functioned as a neighborhood pub. You'd have people coming from other parts of the city or town or whatever, because it was a blues bar. But also you had the same people that would maybe be there every day at a certain time because they lived down the street or they lived 3 blocks away. So you got to know the regular patrons. You got to meet new people that you knew loved the same music that you did, the blues. And because a lot of the musicians are local, you get to know them quite well. And that was the case with me. And I was very blessed to be able to have the opportunity to sit in with a couple of bands, not just go up for the open mic parts, but actually sit in with some of the bands that were pretty well known locally. And
Well,
that's just great fun to be able to share that kind of experience.
Well, it is. Do you want to come up and do a chorus? Yeah, sure. Bang up. Try and stop me. I've just put the link to Ben Ruth's Facebook page. Just trying to work out what his band's called. Something like the Invincibles or the Untouchables or the something or other.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He set up our local music festival. Oh, gosh, it's 11 years ago now. But I met him on the street. He doesn't live too far away. I mean, I'm not living in his pocket. I don't know him that well, but I do know him. Here's the name of the band, The Convulsions. That's the name of the band. It's on his blog here. I'll just send you the link, folks. That's the Facebook for the Convulsions. And it was Phil who played the drums for them for many a month, many a year, I think, actually. The Convulsions photos. Let's just get it. There he is. That's Ben. He used to had a scientific way of getting his playing right. You had to have just the right amount of Jack D with the right amount of
yeah, Liquid Courage.
No, he'd have a particular. He wouldn't drink a gig. He'd time it, and he'd have to have it just so to, and he'd have it straight down, and then he'd set, bang. He wouldn't get drunk. He'd just have the same amount every time for a gig, and just to mellow him out.
Yeah, just to kind of put you on an even keel. That's that's funny. A lot of blues artists talk about that as well. Speaking of juke joints, but also in the recording studio. The juke joints, obviously, like I said, whether it was prohibition in the States or not, the liquor was flowing freely. If you had the money, you could get the liquor, no problem. But a lot of the musicians would get one on the house before they started their gig or started their, entertaining the patrons in the juke joints or even in the big city blues clubs, because it loosened them up. They wouldn't get drunk. You'd have one nip, right? One
a loosener, yeah, a livener.
Yeah, you just have one shot of whiskey or whatever the case may be, or moonshine or whatever they were serving, and it just kind of loosened you up and got you relaxed, and they wouldn't get drunk at all, and then they'd be able to. They felt, and the whoever booked them felt that they played better, and the audience therefore benefited as well. And of course, you'd have the audience members in juke joints, especially in the rural juke joints, pre-war especially, they would toss money to the musician and yell out requests. So if you had somebody like Charlie Patton in some juke joint in Mississippi in the 1930s, and he's playing his hit song Boll Weevil Blues, and somebody wants to hear him play another one of his hits like High Water Everywhere, they toss him a nickel or a dime and they'd say, play High Water Everywhere. And then his next song, that's what he would play. But the patrons would buy the musicians drinks. The musicians would buy food and drinks and lodgings with what the people making requests were paying. And that tradition sort of carried on into some of the big city juke joints for a while, until it started getting too rough because people knew that there was cash being loosely thrown around, right? And so people started showing up in these city clubs with knives, in the 40s and 50s, looking to stick people up because they knew that people had, back then you didn't have credit cards and debit and all that, and apps on your phone to pay for stuff. You had to have cash, and people would buy a drink, and with their change, they'd buy their drinks with folding money, paper money, real money. and then they would get their change back in coin, and then they would toss some coin to the musicians to yell out a request. So everybody had money. The bar had money, the patrons had money, and the musicians had money. So if you were a stick-up artist and you walked in there with a big, excuse my language, but a big fuck off shiny knife, you could make a killing.
Yeah. Well, I've just put a link to the Convulsions, one of the pictures.
Oh, that's it, the Convulsions.
In the
I
chat.
remember you mentioning that name now.
Oh, just glory. Oh, God, they were so good. Well, when I last saw them, gosh, I can't believe I'm about to say this, in 2007 or 8. They're still going, but it's just it's basically the Ben Ruth Blues Band. He's got some young bucks now, but when they were playing before, they had the local leading best guitar player in town. It was a Jimi Hendrix clone. And I mean that with all due respect, by the way, superb guitar player with a purple fustian jacket. They had Phil on drums, the bass player, I never knew him, and Ben Ruth played the harp. And he can blow the harp like you wouldn't believe. I'm just trying to.
That's a great classic blues, like 4/5 piece band. You know, you have your rhythm section of your bass player. First, your sort of upright double bass, and later on, your electric. Let's say for example, your Fender electric bass. You have your drummer. Mm-hmm. You have at first your acoustic guitar player, and later on electric guitar. You have vocalist, and then sometimes the vocalist does double duty as a harp player, or sometimes the guitarist does double duty as a vocalist, and you have the harp player as a sideman. So, a 4 to 5 piece band like that. And once those guys went electric and plugged in the sort of the mid 40s, and especially places like Chicago, man, that just exploded. And that was sort of that classic lineup, that sort of Chicago blues lineup. Sometimes you'd add a piano player or a keyboard player in there, like Muddy would, add Otis Spann, and Howlin' Wolf had what the hell's his name? I can't even remember. But anyways, a lot of times they'd have a piano player too. What's that?
I wouldn't know I'm a fraud. Every time I talk to you, I feel like a complete fraud. I've said this many times. And yet, if I listen to stuff, I go, oh, yeah. And if people say, can you name any blues tunes? I can get to about 6 and then fall apart. It's just rubbish.
Oh, there's a trick to that, though. I could teach you a good trick for that. Is you just think of city or place names that you've heard of where blues artists are from or that they sing about, and then put the word blues at the end of it. So Mississippi Blues, that's a song, guaranteed. Chicago Blues, that's a song, guaranteed. Memphis Blues, that's a song for sure. I know that for a fact. St. Louis Blues, that's another one I know for sure.
Yeah.
Beale Street Blues, B.B. King, the Beale Street Blues Boy. Beale Street Blues, that's a song.
Yeah. I was thinking of more specifics, like I Can't Quit You, Baby.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Manish Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, the first time I heard, well, I say the first time I heard it, it can't have been the first time I heard it, but I remember the first time I remember hearing it, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, like it registered in your head.
And it pushed straight through my chest. It was at the top of the stairs where I used to live. And it came on the radio, and I thought, oh, my God. Da, 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 boom, 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 boom. And all the screaming, the shouting. Clearly one microphone in the middle of the room, everybody around it,
Yeah.
Well, obviously, perhaps a bit more technical than that, but bloody hell, there's that one.
You know what's funny about that song, by the way, is the screaming and the hooting and hollering that you hear in the background when Muddy says, I'm a man, and you hear everybody in the background. It sounds like a bunch of women screaming, but it's not. It's actually all of Buddy's. No, it's all of Buddy's band members. It's Little Walter and all those guys.
To the screen, or
Yeah, no, it's all the male band members. It's his drummer, and it's Little Walter, and I think Jimmy Rogers, and whoever's on piano. I can't remember. Probably Pine Top Perkins or somebody like that.
It's good. So there was, obviously, and the other one of the early ones was what they call the comedy blues. Heard you get no? What do you call it when you've got a name for it?
Oh, Holcomb.
Holcomb, that's it. Yeah, well, one of my faves is the B side of a song that was a big hit. It's number one in the UK, early 70s, called The Funky Gibbon. Now, The Funky Gibbon was produced by a fella called Bill Oddie, but he was really into the blues. And his B side of this hit was called The Sick Man Blues. And of course, it started, I woke up one morning.
Yeah.
Feeling so sick, I thought I was dead, right? Which is a classic blues style line. And
yeah, especially for sort of pre-war country blues. Yeah, where basically it's the singer singing in the third person with himself as the main character, and it's I woke up this morning and everything was turned to shit kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I woke up one morning feeling so sick, I thought I was dead. Oh yes, I did. And he's doing. If you listen to it now, I've been listening to more blues, of course. It sounds like he's doing Sonny Boy too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, could be.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you know the yes with what's the song he does? There's loads of them. Like I said, I'm a fraud. I couldn't name you. Can I name 6? I'm still struggling. Okay, I Can't Quit You, Baby. Manish Boy. What's the other one? Do. My mama told me do at the age of 5. Hoochie Coochie Man.
Yeah, there you go.
The Hoochie Coochie Man was done in 87. I used to jam with a friend of mine, old college buddy called Bill Roberts. Anybody Googling him? He's a pianist, a great blues pianist is Bill. And he's another one. I'll look him up actually. He played the Hoochie Coochie Man, played by the Box Blues Band. And I'm not sure where they came from, either London or the Northwest. And because they had this brilliant on the turn, I'm your Hoochie Coochie Man, woohoo, yeah, everybody knows I'm here. And he did this amazing run with his voice, this fella.
Right.
And just amazing, because I'm your Hoochie Coochie Man, woohoo, yeah, everybody knows. Because obviously that's not the way Uzi did it.
By the way, you earlier you mentioned Sonny Boy Williamson #2, and we had talked about him a couple times already because he's the avatar or whatever you want to call it for our channel here. But this month, December, is his birthday too, actually.
All right.
Yeah. So it's just funny that speaking of coming full circle, it's just funny that we just kind of mentioned him just sort of casually a couple times, and here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his birthday was December 5th. It was just this past December 5th was his birthday.
Sonny Boy, yeah, December 5th, 1912.
Yeah, some say 1910, some say 1909, some say 1899. Even he was a bloody liar. He would tell tall tales, and he very often gave multiple different birthdays. But I just want to try something here real quick, if you don't mind, Monk.
Yeah, sure. He played on trumpet and Checker Records.
I'm going to just quickly try something here.
It's Wikipedia, gosh. I've remembered the song. It was Hush Hush. Hush.
You got to help me. I can't do it all by myself. You got to help me, baby. I can't do it all by myself. You know, if you don't help me, darling, I'll have to find myself somebody else. I may have to wash it, may have to sew, I may have to cook, I might mop the floor, but you help me, baby. You know, if you don't help me, darling, I'll find myself somebody else.
That's great, by the way.
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. It's like Green Onions before Green Onions.
I was gonna say,
Do, do,
I wonder
do.
where Booker T and the MGs got that from.
Yeah, that's Green Onions written all over it. What is it? Is that 19? Hold on.
That's 1964, I believe. It's called Help Me. Yeah.
The year I was born on Checker Records, written by Sonny Boy himself. 1036, it says here.
Yeah.
So, surprise, surprise, I've now just put that in my history for YouTube. Do, 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 do. See, all these classic riffs. And that's something, by the way, folks, that, hang on. Oh, Zoom zooms in. Let's have a look at the chat. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, there he is. Hey, Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom zooms in. Let's have a look. We haven't looked at the chat yet, have we? Good evening, gentlemen and ladies.
Yeah, that's right. We were just talking about that, Zoom. The band hollering, my man, woo! I spill him.
I'm a man.
Hey,
Man. Blew my sock. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, God.
Yobi.
Toby.
Oh, child.
And do you know the strange song is that it's the same chord all the way through.
Yes.
Da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Ba, 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 ba. My mama told me.
Yeah, it's just... over and over and over, yeah.
Over and over and over and over.
But that's the simplicity or the beauty of the simplicity of that little instrument, that little harmonica, that back around the time when, Sonny Boy and Muddy Waters and all these guys were coming up and forming bands, you could get that little thing for $1.50, $2 at a store. Hell, you could still get a decent one for $10 Canadian. It's just pre-tuned in the key of C, but you can buy harmonicas in other keys. You can take it with you wherever you go. And these guys made this tiny little instrument with, 10 little notes on it sound like this big booming thing. This little gob box from the country blues in the pre-war era became known as the Mississippi saxophone up in Chicago, because you could get real simple and just play one chord over and over again, like Little Walter's doing in Mannish Boy. That's it. That's all he plays through the whole thing. Or you can get super intricate and detailed, like Sonny Boy Williamson does in, that song Help Me, where he does lots of trills and sort of looping, swooping high notes. And then he gets down and he's doing sort of rhythmic accompaniments with himself while he's doing the...
Well, sorry.
That kind of stuff. It's amazing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's a lag, isn't it? You end up tripping. I was thinking of the Paul Butterfield thing. It's got some great moments in it for the harp.
Oh yeah,
he's got a crack do 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 do. So what I'm looking to do is I know a harp player. He's nowhere close to Ben Ruth, but he'd say that himself. Ben Ruth is just breathing different air. But if I can get hold of Mick's got the belt thing.
Oh yeah. With all the different harps that you put in it. Yeah.
So he's quite a good player. So it'd be good to, and like I've said, if he hears this, I hope you're not insulted by that. But it's like standing me next to Jimi Hendrix. Who are you going to pick?
Yeah.
It's by no means disrespect. He's a good player, is Mick. and he's so keen to get it. He'll get up every time. You won't need to look. You just look at him raising an eyebrow, he'll be up. It's he'll be there.
Well, and in interviews that I've read and stuff that I've seen from Paul Butterfield, he very much says that, you know, his biggest influence was Little Walter. You know, that was his favorite harp player, and that's the one that influenced him the most was Little Walter. You know,
that's cool.
I mean, a lot of people consider Little Walter to be the best, and he pretty much is sort of the father of the electric Chicago, you know, blues harp. He's pretty much the guy that created that sound where you just press your mic or your harp right up against your microphone and just blow right into it. And you want that sort of reverb and feedback and that sort of crunchy sound because it fit in with what the guys were doing on their guitars and with the electric bass.
Oh yeah, there's something about it, especially if you've got a really loud bass, boom, 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 and the hi-hat things coming in, and then somebody will dab a note, and it'll build up, and then tension will rise, and then boom, 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 and then some syncopated bits in the drums, and change it, and then on the turnaround, you'll come out. It's very, very, very satisfying.
Well, especially with guys like
what they do in the bass and the drums.
Especially with guys like Paul Butterfield, Sonny Boy Number 2, Little Walter to some extent, Big Walter Horton, Walter Shaky Horton, John Popper from Blues Traveler, James Cotton. I mean, I could go on and on and on. These guys that they front the band. They're the leader of their blues outfit. They do lead vocals and they play harp or harmonica at the same time. And the really good ones like Butterfield or Sonny Boy Number 2, John Mayall actually as well, transitioning between doing vocals and playing the harp and going back and forth so seamlessly, keeping perfect time is amazing because when it's a different style of harp playing. When you hear the harp being played by a harmonica player who's just acting as a sideman in that particular song, because Little Walter did both. He was a sideman in Muddy's band, but he also had his own band where he was the lead singer and harmonica player. But when he would play with Muddy's band and Muddy would do the lead vocals, the harp player almost steps on the last few words that the vocalist sings. He comes in just before the one.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're accompanying yourself, you have to come in at the one because you obviously can't play the harmonica and finish your vocal at the same time.
That's right.
So the really good harp players could play both styles, and the really good harp players could transition very well between playing harp and singing the vocal parts and accompanying themselves. It's amazing.
And some of them play the guitar at the same time. Got one of those mouth, the neck.
Yeah, like John Hammond or Slim Harpo. Those guys that Jimmy Reed, Neil Young even. Just to get away from blues for a second and get into more sort of popular rock and roll music, Neil Young.
That's where your Bob Dylan influence steps in, and Donna.
Yeah, the Folkies did that a lot too. Yeah, well, because essentially blues is a form of folk music.
Mike, I've seen that done very, very well by a fellow over here who's a folkie, but he's also a comedian called Mike Harding, and he plays he's not a bad blues player, but he's a comedian. You know, his guitar's an adjunct to his show, and he can do all that on a Holcomb song called "Talking Blackpool Blues." Oh, I named another song! Hooray!
There you go.
It rained and rained for most of the day, but we all got brown in a funny sort of way. It was rust. If you're looking for it, it's called "Talking Blackpool Blues."
Sorry,
Mike Harding. It's all right. It's fine. I'll see if I can find a link to it. Talking Blackpool Blues. Here we are. Found it. Fucking Black. Oh, bloody hell. I've not heard this for years.
Yeah, and people ain't got a crime train.
Oh, yeah.
I do climb the crime train. She wait till it got 9 below 0.
Oh, 9 below 0, of course. Oh, God, I'm asleep.
Ain't nothing man.
I was hardly concentrating and I was uploading my card.
I'll give her all my money, all of my loving, and everything. All my money, all of my loving, and everything. It done got 9 below 0, and she done put me down for another man.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. Hang on a minute.
You know who's on guitar on that song, eh?
Go on, buddy guy.
That's right, our buddy Guy, our main man.
Stab in the dark. Oh, by the way,
Stab.
a friend of mine, young lad, a friend of mine, he's a good guitarist. He's a very gift. He can do all the fancy rock stuff, but he's slowly coming round and wants me to coach him on the finer points of the blues, which I find a heck of a rather daunting task because who the hell am I to give anybody pointers on blues? But anyway, so it's really been amazing because you'll never guess who his favorite guitar player is. Just a stab in the dark.
Mr. Buddy Guy.
Is there anybody who else? I said, well, if you want a model to model yourself on, there's basically for your own real wild star, because he's into Eddie Van Halen. He play the balls out of Eddie Van Halen anytime you like. So he's technically, he's streets Eddie, but he's not got he's never been shown the blues. And I said, well, it's most out of least. You only need 5 notes and a bend and you're there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can't play. But he said, well, he said, I can copy this stuff, but how do you solo? I said, well, you could. I said, if you could play Eddie Van Halen, for goodness sake, you could solo. And he says, well, actually, no, it's new. And I thought, well, that's quite a strange thing, isn't it? That he can play pretty much anything, but vamping is not, or what do you call it? Improvisation is not that experienced at. I'm not going to say he can't do it because, of course, he can. But he's just never been shown how to fly up the neck. So now he's flying up.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, it's one thing to sit in your room or whatever and play and play and play, and you get super good. But if you don't play with anyone else, then you never learn how to accompany somebody. You never know when to jump in and take a solo, when to step back and let them jump in and take a solo, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you've got to find your space jamming. I'm amazed. Some bands, they just do the songs, they learn them, they turn up to the gig and they don't rehearse together. And I think, well, that's the joy. The joy of this. This is people. This is not, at risk of sounding a bit obsessive, and I don't care anyway. This is about people. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself. I know it sounds a bit grandiose, a bit righteous, but it's true. It if you don't jam, there's no soul. There's absolutely soulless guitaring, soulless harp, soulless everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed this long and hard many times that there's a whole set of strata of all this, the food and the drinking and the historical, the slavery and the emancipation of people, that we're just a fleck, a speck of dust on the top of. Whereas there's this whole historical thing, and that people sometimes miss. And I think we get it. Well, I know you get it. Oh, and that's something I was going to say. By the way, I was about to say about 20 minutes ago, folks, that I'll play a riff and Whiskey will go, oh, yes, Sonny Boy Smith played that on the B-side of the second volume of such and such an album. And you think, God damn it, how do you do that? And don't say you haven't done it, because you've done it loads. You did it.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. Once in a while. I mean, there's certain songs that have
the classic riffs in it. And
the artist, whether he's just a straight up singer, like somebody like Big Joe Turner or Bobby Bland, where they don't play any instruments at all, or whether it's a blues musician who's a harmonica player or a guitar player or a piano player. Each of them has at least one, but more than likely a few sort of standards or classics that they're known for.
Mm-hmm.
And those, because, and again, it goes back to, blues artists influencing each other and cross-pollination and all of that stuff going way back.
Mm-hmm.
But, they influence one another. So, somebody's kind of gets known for maybe a certain style or playing a certain riff a certain way, and somebody else likes it, they'll pick it up, but they'll make it their own, so that when they're playing that same song, they'll put that same bend or same riff or whatever in that song, but it sounds slightly different because they tailored it to their own style or abilities. But then you could say, oh, well, okay, that song is, such and such, but it's to the tune of Sweet Home Chicago, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, Route 66 is a great example. It's got the Manish Boy riff in it.
Yeah. Or even if you do Robert Johnson stuff, right? Like there's many songs that have pretty much the exact same melody. Like I got dead shrimp in my pond is basically the exact same song as I got stones in my passway. There's like 3 or 4 songs that all have the same melody.
There's some real standouts though, like Backdoor Man. That's got a very and hush hush hush. Those are very different, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, because like I said, every once in a while, one of these musicians comes up with something that's so iconic, like the da-na-na-na-na for Manish Boy. I mean, even if anybody doesn't actively listen to the blues, I'm sure there's so many people out there that have heard that riff.
Well, there's the there and back riff as well. Hang on a minute. Let me get my guitar.
The whole Manish Boy thing. Everything gonna be all right this morning. And then it goes into da-na-na-na-na. I mean, Martin Scorsese used that in Goodfellas. So I mean, even if you don't listen to the blues, you've heard stuff like that, and it sticks, right? It's like Smokestack Light and the Howlin' Wolf, or even the wolf's howl itself, that ooh that the wolf does, that's his shtick. He's known for that. Somebody else does it and it doesn't quite sound right.
No, there's this one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now there's This from Jimi Hendrix too. Right, and you mix them together, you've got. So those, you can start to pick and mix the styles, which is really, really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Because if it's a 12-bar blues, it's all going to fit.
And then if you took in a bit. Oh, hang on. And then you've got your Buddy Guy stuff would be a real fast burst, like.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting carried away. Pardon me.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, you know what happens every time you and I talk privately. Oh, look, it's midnight. Oh, yeah, look at that. We've been talking about the blues solid for an hour. We start off something. Somebody says the word blues or guitar.
Yeah, and that's it. It's over. Well, that's funny because I started off this stream by saying that exact thing. That inevitably, even in a private hangout, we end up talking about the blues.
Absolutely, there's no way around it. It's just the way it is. So,
well, that's because blues isn't like a museum piece that was recorded by guys like Sunhouse and Howlin' Wolf from 1930 to 1962, and then that was it. And there's still blues artists from sort of the earlier times, like Buddy Guy, for example, that are still recording and still touring. There's new blues artists coming up all the time. There's old rocker guys that are, I guess they feel they're getting too old to rock, which to me doesn't make sense, because if you're old enough to play, you're old enough to rock and roll. But anyway, they're putting out blues albums because they were influenced by the blues in the 60s and 70s when they were, becoming a rock and roller. And now that they're in their 60s and 70s, they're putting out blues albums. And you have new acts all the time, like our buddy Christone Kingfish Ingram.
He's great.
Larkin Poe. There's great artists coming out all the time.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. Kingfish. There's a massive poster of him, and there must be some money being invested in him out good. Because I went into a music shop last summer, and there was a big poster of him with a Stratocaster, so he must have some sort of deal going on with Fender. But quite right, because he's a hell of a player. He's got a good voice too.
Oh, hell yeah, he does.
He's got a cracking voice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Fresh out.
I was just gonna fresh out, eh?
Right. And then you got Route 66. So those are the sort of two main ones, and then you got Send Me Take Me riff. So you got farting about. That was timing was all over the place. The thing is, it's I could go for hours. Anyway, sorry. Sometimes, I'll sit there, I'll be tired out, obviously, half asleep there. And it's great because one of the things I showed Mike, so I'm ranting here, was that I always wanted to get out of box one. For those of you who play, and I know you do AP30, if I play box one in G, right, getting out, box one's easy-ish. But I wanted to go from here to sail up the neck. And it wasn't until only about 2 or 3 years ago I worked out how to do it. And it's it's embarrassing because I remember being told how to do it. But then the punk thing hit. And then that was the end of that. So which is really quite easy. Oh, sorry, I was getting carried away there.
No, nothing wrong with that at all. You had mentioned the song Fresh Out.
Yeah, Fresh Out. It's early on Buddy Guy's on that.
Yeah, that's right. They play sort of a guitar duo with that.
Yeah. I mean, he really, yeah, actually out does.
No coffee for my breakfast. No butter on my roll. I ain't got a drop of milk for the cornflakes in my bowl. I'm fresh out. Baby, I'm all fresh out. Ain't had no loving since the day girl, you went away. I'm fresh out. No chili in the jar, no flour in the sack. I ain't got nothing cooking, babe. Please won't you come back? I'm fresh out. I'm all fresh out. Ain't had no loving since the day. Oh, girl, you went away. I'm fresh out.
Yeah, it's great.
Stuff right there. That is some good stuff.
Hang on a minute. Okay, wait. No, I lost it. Oh yeah. Lost. But yeah, there's he was out angling, but he got his own game there.
Can't hear you, Monk.
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is it
Can
gone?
you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, I can hear you.
Strange.
Don't me to bob out and bob in. Let me just check my mic. Can you hear me now?
That's really weird.
Hello? Right, let me leave. I'll come back.
Well, we're still live. So I don't know if you folks in the chat could hear Monk or not, or if you could hear me. Just let me know really quick. I don't often do a screen share and stuff like that, so it could have been a problem on my end too.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
No, I still don't hear you.
Hang on. My microphone is working.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
That-
there it is.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I don't know what happened there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It might have been on my end a glitch because I was screen sharing. And
Weird.
that's something that I just kind of started doing, and I tested before we went live just to see if it would work.
Funny that. You can hear the BB King influence or some of these. Yes, you can. Yeah, he's great, that kid. He's really good, that kid.
Yeah. Well, and you can hear the BB King influence in Buddy Guy's playing too.
Yeah. He's right. His AP 530 about simping. Oh, there's loads. I mean, there's tons of simping. It's simptastic, but we've got to let it go because otherwise I'll have to shut myself down.
Well, the thing is, I've always looked at the blues, especially, as almost being, these old blues cats are giving you a heads up, and they're putting it in a time capsule, and they're sending it forward in time to us to heed the warnings. Songs like 9 Below Zero, ain't that a pity? Ain't that a crying shame?
Yeah, I can't quit you, baby.
Yeah, well, songs like, listen to the lyrics of 9 Below Zero. Ain't that a pity? Ain't that a shame? It got 9 below zero, and she put me out for another man. I gave her all my money, all my love, and everything.
Yeah, well, there's a warning.
Time below zero, and she's got me out for another man. You know. So.
Well, yeah, well, what's that? Well, I can't say anything. I'm not going to get into that because that's
No, I mean, it's, you know, and that's like I've always said, you know, the blues music especially has always been very topical. The blues has always been, because don't forget, especially at the sort of at the quote unquote birth of the blues, right? Late 20s, well, mid to late 20s through to like the pre-war era, right when World War II started. Most of the blues consumers were African Americans. Most of those African Americans could not read or write. And even if they could, they couldn't afford, they didn't have enough spare money in their pocket to go to the local store and buy a newspaper and get the current events. And even if they did, the newspaper didn't write about their community's current events. You know what I'm saying? So, in order for them to get their information, it was at the community level. And a lot of these blues artists that would travel from town to town in the 20s and 30s and 40s by hoboing or hopping trains or whatever, they'd go from Jacksonville to San Antonio to Tampa, and they'd tour around. They'd go up to St. Louis and Chicago, and they'd come back. And these guys were basically the news. They were basically giving current events, telling, like when Charlie Patton sang about high water everywhere, he recorded that in 1929, singing about the floods in 1929 in Mississippi, because he was there when it happened. And as soon as the waters receded and things started to go back to normal a few months later, he went into the studio and recorded High Water Everywhere Part 1 and Part 2. So it was only a few months old at the time. So if you lived in a part of Mississippi or a part of the South and you didn't own a radio, you couldn't read or write, so you didn't hear about the flood, the only way that you could hear about it would be if you heard Charlie Patton singing High Water Everywhere.
Wow, really? That's like the wandering minstrels in the Middle Ages.
Yes, it was that sort of idea. So this is how isolated African American communities got not only current events and news and gossip, but were also exposed to different styles of blues, different regional styles, because in the early days of the blues, the Mississippi Delta blues sounded much different than the East Texas blues or the Georgia blues or the Arkansas blues. You know, before it started getting sort of amalgamated and homogenized by the record labels. So it's always been a very topical style of music that was always sort of up on the current events, up on trends, up on all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it can't be killed off either.
No, well, like
I think
it says, the blues is alive and well, right?
Yeah, I think it. You talk about news. I think the big news flash is the number of young guitar blues players are coming through now. If you look on YouTube, it's really in its ascendancy again.
Yeah.
It'll never take over, but you don't want it to take over, because if it takes over, it becomes a fad. If it becomes a fad, that's the end.
Absolutely. And we talked about this just the other night.
Yeah.
That blues has these ebbs and flows, or these crests and valleys, and it falls in and out of favor, not only in popularity overall, but in its history. It's always done that. Even African Americans themselves turned their back on the blues in the 40s when rhythm and blues and jump blues and boogie woogie was coming around, and in the 50s when R&B was becoming rock and roll. In the 60s, when Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin invented soul music, also when James Brown invented funk, basically in the late 50s, early 60s. Plus, you had also at the same time the doo-wop scene, the Motown sound. So these young African American kids were like, I don't want to listen to my mom and dad's sad ass blues music about working in the fields picking cotton all friggin' day. I don't want to hear that shit. I want to hear Big Joe Turner singing about having a good time, cruising around in flashy cars and having a party. I want to listen to T-Bone Walker singing about Bobby Sox, and I want to hear Chuck Berry singing about racing Maybelline, his car Maybelline, and taking it on a race against another guy.
Run along my automobile.
Yeah, like they want to hear Fats Domino. They don't want to hear Arthur Big Boy Crudup. They don't want to hear, uh, old Muddy Water stuff or Charlie Patton stuff.
Shame.
So
Oh,
the very people that were creating this music, and this music was being created for, turned their backs on it. And in the 50s, it wasn't really all that popular. In certain pockets it was, but rock and roll really came up. Jazz was also, don't forget, huge in the 50s. Jazz almost beat out rock and roll as the king of music in the United States for a long time, because a lot of Brits loved jazz too.
Yeah.
So it was crossing back and forth. But then the people that got into jazz started buying blues records, because the title would say Jazz Masters Volume 6, but it would have Muddy Waters on it. So they're getting Duke Ellington, and they're getting Louis Armstrong.
Calloway,
and Cab Calloway, but they're also getting Muddy Waters and Lead Belly. And eventually the British kids started finding out about the blues through the jazz, and the American kids started finding out about the blues through the folk music scene.
Well,
so the blues became popular again.
Yeah, didn't Mick Jagger, I think we've discussed this before, Mick Jagger got on tour with the Stones, go to America, say, I'd like to go and see Muddy Waters. And they go, oh, where's that? And he's going, what? Who the hell are you?
Yeah, that's Muddy Waters.
Muddy Waters is
not a place. Yeah.
They launched the blues when they came to America.
Yeah.
Not relaunched it, just raised its profile.
Yeah, sort of put the spotlight back on it again.
Yeah, which is where it should be, frankly.
Yeah.
But
and that's happened. That happens about every 10 years or so. Right? In the 60s, blues was huge. In the 70s, it started to die down a little bit. Then in the 80s, it had a resurgence with the blues rock guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Robert Cray and Freddie King to some extent, Eric Clapton, of course, although Eric Clapton was pretty big in the 70s, but he walked away from the blues for a while.
60s too.
So yeah, it comes and goes, but it never completely dies. The blues, the blues will never die. It just, like any other style of music. I mean, house music has the same history in the sense that it's really popular and then it dies down and then somebody reinvents it and then it comes back into popularity again. Different forms of electronic music, and then it falls out of favor and up and down it goes. Same thing with jazz, blues, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the punk music resurgence of the 1990s as a response to the grunge scene. The grunge scene exploded in the early 90s and basically reinvented rock and roll and punk, and then their punk had a huge resurgence in the mid to late 90s as a sort of automatic reaction to the grunge scene.
Yeah, Green Day and
Blink 182 and all that.
182. Some great bands, and then that got mixed in with they went from there to mixing in with the rap. So you'd have rap punk bands, amazing.
Sure, like Linkin Park and Rage Against the Machine. Rap metal and rap punk and punk metal too.
Long Pigs.
Have
you heard of the Long Pigs?
Long Pigs? No, I've never heard of them.
Must be a British band.
Yeah.
Long Pig is the name for when cannibals would catch white people.
Oh yeah, Long Pig. Yeah. Okay, that term I've heard, but the band I've never heard.
Long Pigs. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean that's that's the blues is just a wonderful thing because, and I think the reason why it'll never completely die out, and we've seen other forms of music almost completely go extinct, right? Like big band music. Why didn't that continue to flourish?
You can't take part. That's what. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well,
you can't take part.
But jazz is still very popular. Not as popular as it was, but jazz is still very popular. You'd think that big band would ride on the coattails of jazz's popularity, but it's all but died out, except for every once in a while somebody revives it because it's part of a movie soundtrack or something, and it becomes the flavor of the month for a year or two.
Let's have a
You
think.
know, like the big bad Voodoo Daddy, and then the Royal Crown Review, and those types of bands, and then they disappear.
There is a big, what's his face out of the Stray Cats put a big band together, didn't he?
Yeah, but now the Stray Cats have gotten back together because the big band
that's true.
died. You know, disco is almost all but dead. The only thing keeping disco going is sampling and electronic music.
Yeah, disco's gone. But yeah, the big band thing, the two I can think of, the Brain Setzer Orchestra and another fellow we have over here called, what's his name?
I guess it's harder for a touring band to gig. If
Well,
there's
you
20 members of your bloody band, first of all, you're limited to where you can play.
Yeah.
And you got to divide your ticket sales by 20 members or whatever. But whereas if you have a 3-piece or a 5-piece, it's a little easier to get gigs and you get a bigger slice of the pie, I guess. Plus just the logistics of hauling around a rhythm section and a horn section and a woodwind section and a brass section and a percussion section and all that for even a smaller big band, like Louis Armstrong's Hot Fives or Hot Sevens or Louis Jordan's, 7-piece bands.
Here we are. It's Jules Holland Rhythm and Blues Orchestra.
Okay, there you go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 people. So it's a hell of a band.
Yeah, see? Logistically, it becomes a problem, right? And
yeah,
so how do you promote your stuff if you can't tour because it's hard to get venues and secure gigs and move all your equipment and all that crap, right?
Yep. Well, 19 members of that band. 20-piece band. Yeah.
The other thing, too, that I think the reason the blues will never die is because people keep going back to it. Rock and rollers can keep going back to that well. It's almost a bottomless well of content and subject matter just in recordings. And then you can go back prior to recordings to sheet music when like W.C. Handy was writing blues music in the early 1900s, like 1900s and 1910s.
Wow.
So and that was meant to be played with, a small brass band with a small rhythm section. Very much the precursor to, jive and jump blues and big band type stuff and swing stuff, I've
been out and played with a section, and that's something else. That's quite just dabbing chords quietly at the back. This is a million years ago down in the south. And it should be about 1990. And a friend of mine said, hey, come on, there's a band on. All right, they had a section on. And ended up jamming and just dabbing chords quietly hiding. And oh my God, this is so alive. That's a hell of an experience.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I know there's a band around here called The Section. And The Section's a 12-piece soul band. And actually, I'm not going to dig them out. But yeah, that's a hell of a sound. The section.
Yeah, I love a good horn section, you know. And a lot of guys, a lot of Chicago blues artists in the 60s and 70s, well, even in the 50s too, now that I think of it, but especially in the 60s and 70s, they had small horn sections. Howlin' Wolf often had saxophone player, at least one sax player, which is unusual because the Wolf also played harmonica. So rarely would you have a harmonica player backed up by a saxophone player, because really you don't need the sax player if you've got a harp player in your band. You can sort of swap one for the other.
Yeah, sorry, I've got you can swap them around, and the best thing about all that is that when you've got a big section, and if the band's any good, they chuck the riff around the band. You ever notice that? They'll split the riff up around the band, play a bit of it across over a couple of bars where a couple of notes here, a couple of notes there, a couple of notes here, a couple of notes here, and then they'll pass that riff round. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I see. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's what I mean. So somebody, Paul Butterfield does it to a degree, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and somebody else will go. So the stabs they call them, don't they? Like that. So they'll chop the riff up, section it.
Yeah.
Expression. And so there's plenty call and answer within the riff, and then the riff the whole thing will be passed around the band. I've seen that done. We saw when I was playing with Fraser and James about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We went on after a 12-piece soul and blues band, and that was at the Roughly Festival, which was a whole day of bands, and it was just all day in Stockport. It's just tremendous. You can look it up if you like. Roughly's. Hang on a minute, Roughly Stockport Roughly Festival. Oh, it's been on again this year, has it? Roughly's bike show. There you go. But we played. Oh, it's quite a. There he is. That's the fella, Mark Roughly. He organises it. Anyway, there you go. Roughly's bike show, Stockport. But it was a biker, and I've got pictures of it, of us playing out the side of it. Basically, what they do, they get a 38-ton truck, or what do you call it, a Pantechnicon, with an open side, and then one of these big 40-ton trucks. And they put all the gig in there. So you walk on from the cab end, come up the steps onto a lorry, play with a lorry and bugger off. But I've got all kinds of footage of that. I'll have to show it you sometime. I wonder if I'm going. Oh no, I've not got the hard disk connected. So yeah, it's quite a thing, that Roughly biker show. So they had bands on all day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We went on about 9:30, so it was just going dark. Great. I've shot, the pictures on my site, on my channel.
Yes.
With all the people watching.
Mm-hmm.
Seen from that's that festival.
I think you've also shown
outside of the lorry.
That too, I think.
Probably bored the arse off you with it all. But anyway, there you go. I'm beginning to flake, I'm afraid, Whiskey.
Oh, it's getting late for you.
Yeah, it's 11:15, so I'm gonna have to scalp it. But wow, do you know? I'll tell you, listening, folks, if we are on a private conversation, it'd be very much the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Play this. What? Have you heard this? Yeah, I've got a riff. Yeah, this, that, the other. Yeah, we did try jamming one time, but there was a time lag between the thing, so it was a bit rubbish.
Yeah, and we've tried that many times. You and I have tried jamming. I've tried jamming with somebody else. I can't remember. Quite a few times.
Yeah, it's hard.
But there is lag, and it screws up the timing. And also, to be honest with you, at one point you and I were both playing in the same key, but by the time it passes through, gets to your end, it sounds like I'm out of key, and vice versa.
Yeah, it sounded awful.
Yeah.
Waste of time. I'm sure there's the technology soon with 5G and stuff to do it, but
I'm sure that the technology already exists.
Miles, it's got to have some sort of change.
The technology still exists. We just don't have the power, the equipment, the equipment, and the cash. I mean, the stuff's expensive, man. But yeah, you can watch. There's plenty of channels out there where people jam live and there's no lag. But
really, well, maybe
we just do this for fun. I mean, we started this thing 3 years ago. Just as a hobby, just because of our mutual love of the blues and just to have fun. And because each of us, we knew that each of us would come at it from a different perspective or a different departure, but arrive at the same destination. Monk, as I mentioned earlier in this stream, comes at it from the practical application. He actually plays the guitar and can give lessons and show you how to play and make chords and do chord progressions and how to, like you said, showed earlier, how to run up and down the neck and all of that stuff. I cannot really play. I'm not really a very good musician. I'm amateur at best, but I have an understanding of the roots of the music and the background of a lot of the artists.
Mm-hmm.
So each of us, kind of like in our real lives, geographically, you're over there in England, I'm here in Canada, but so we're coming at it from different departures, but we arrive at the same place. We can meet up here and it doesn't seem like we're worlds apart. And we just have a lot of fun because we share this passion for this thing it's blues on recordings is coming up on 100 years old. I think in 2025 or 2026, it'll be 100 years since the first official blues recording.
Wow, really?
But as I said, about 30 years before that, it had been written down as sheet music and was already being performed in public squares and sort of outdoor gatherings and picnics and down in New Orleans and street parades and all of that stuff. So, like I said, W.C. Handy, William Christopher Handy, out of New Orleans, I believe. And I think he eventually moved up to Memphis, Tennessee, but I'm not 100% on that. But anyways, W.C. Handy was basically what he wrote a lot of the very first early blues songs that later were recorded by Ma Rainey. Like, for example, I think it's St. Louis Blues is the very, very first. No, Crazy Blues, I think, is the very first blues recording by Ma Rainey. And that, I believe, was written by W.C. Handy. So, yeah, it's just fascinating that it's over 100 years old as an official musical art form, and it's coming up on 100 years old as in recorded history. So I think that's why it'll never die, because there's such a rich history there. Somebody who's a musician and wants to know about where the newest band got that cool sound or that neat little thing that they did, a lot of cases it can be traced back to those early recordings of the 20s and 30s and 40s.
And even more recent songs like that band by Jet. Have you heard it?
I've heard of Jet.
Well, they had a 1, 2, 3. Take a look at me.
Oh yeah. I know the song you mean.
Oh, but that's a.
I really want to make you mine. Yeah.
That's a straight up blues influenced bit of glory. So that if people are chunting that out, I mean, I know it's about 8 years old. Is it 10 years old?
Yeah, it was 10 years old, or maybe somewhere in there. Yeah.
I mean, that's that opening riff, classic blues.
Yeah, it's not too far from.
It's ripped.
Hey.
Yeah, total John Lee Hooker. But and that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it's passed on. It's moving and changing and living. It's sneaking its way through everything. So that's good.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a museum piece that's reached a certain plateau and never changed. It's still constantly growing and evolving, and there's still new people coming to it. There's still older musicians rediscovering it and coming back to it. It's amazing. Yeah, there you go.
Old, officially old, 56. God,
that's not old.
Well, it's not. He said, try to flex. Yeah, put a sheet over him. Yeah. Would you like your hot milky cocoa, Granddad? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Your warm glass of milk.
Okay,
real quickly before we go, I just want to also mention, because earlier we were talking about Sonny Boy Williamson. We were talking about great harmonica players, and I'd mentioned that Sonny Boy's birthday is this month in December. And Sonny Boy actually for me is my personal favorite harmonica player. That's Sonny Boy number 2. Out of all the blues harp players, he's my favorite. Is he the fanciest? No, but I really, really like his style of playing. And like I said, the way he can transition between singing and playing harmonica. He's very, very good player. But another guy whose birthday is this month and used to be in a fantastic Chicago blues duo with our friend Buddy Guy is Junior Wells, who was born December 1934. And you mentioned the Rolling Stones. Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, for many, many occasions, opened up for the Rolling Stones when the Stones toured in different parts of the U.S. in the 70s. And often the Rolling Stones bass player Bill Wyman would play bass for Buddy Guy and Junior Wells when they toured over in Europe.
Know that.
So Junior Wells was a fantastic blues harmonica player, a fantastic singer as well. His style of blues was very much like Buddy Guy's style. They were both very wild. Buddy was such a wild guy because he's from Lettsworth, Louisiana, and moved straight up to Chicago and started getting in all kinds of trouble right away. Junior Wells is from Arkansas and went up to Chicago as a teenager. I believe he was 14 or 15 when he ran away from home and moved up to Chicago. Filled in Muddy Waters band when Little Walter left to pursue a solo career. Junior Wells briefly filled in on occasion for Muddy Waters because he was also hugely influenced by Little Walter. But Junior Wells was also very much influenced by Sonny Boy number 2, the picture for our channel and my favorite player.
And so sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, that's the thing. Stevie Ray Vaughan breathed different air, and it's tremendously exciting, and it's talent in leaps and in tonnage, but you can't beat the bursts that Buddy Guy does, and that's because Yellow Sponge.
What's that? What?
We've just been asked, is that yellow? Oh, yes, it's on the microphone. Yes, it is. It's a microphone protector, Yellow Sponge. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, but for me, the accessibility is very important to feel like you could do that.
Yeah.
Buddy Guy, I wanted to do that, and then once I got sort of into it, I could think, well, I used to think, well, I could do that, and now I can do that. Whereas with Stevie Ray Vaughan, no, that's just
yeah. I mean, there's different levels, right? I mean,
it's never gonna happen.
Sonny Boy number 2 is my favorite, but I definitely can't even emulate him because he's just too good. But Junior Wells, who's my second favorite, I can play much closer to his style, which is strange because his style is a mix of his 2 favorites, which is Little Walter and Sonny Boy number 2, both of whom I cannot play in their styles, but I can definitely sort of copy Junior Wells, especially the stuff that he does with Buddy Guy, because he takes on more of a sideman role anyways. And of course he takes solos for sure, but the harmonica takes a little bit of a backseat to Buddy's guitar playing, obviously, when Junior's backing up Buddy Guy. But yeah, Junior Wells, his real name Amos Blakemore Jr., was born December 1934, I want to say. And he's my second favorite. So I just want to quickly share. This is Junior Wells' a live performance from 1975 at a Chicago Blues.
Right, cool.
It's a Chicago Blues Club called Teresa's, and everybody played there. And it's Junior Wells playing his version of Little Walter's big hit that allowed Little Walter to go solo from Muddy's band. And that song is called Juke, Juke, which is a type of dance, actually. And that's where the name Juke Joint comes from. It's a dance joint, a joint where you can go and dance, a place you can go and dance. So I'm going to quickly share this track. Again, it's live. It's Junior Wells at Teresa's 1975.
You know what he's doing? Yeah, so there you go. Great. You're right. That was really accessible. If you think, oh, I could play that if I learned it, you know, great place to start. It's a take part thing. Right. Okay. I'm going to have to scarp, but my legs have gone numb. This isn't a proper office chair, this.
Yeah. Well, you said that an hour ago. Sorry, man. It's getting late.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Coming up on midnight for you there.
It's 11:30 now. It's okay. I'm not at work tomorrow. I'm on holiday. So,
Well,
so of course, we'll have a natter with you privately, face to face, if that's okay as well.
what's that?
I say we can have a bit of a quick natter before Scarpa face
Oh,
to
yeah,
face
for sure.
privately, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think now's as good as time as any. We had Junior Wells take us out with that tribute to Little Walter. So yeah. So yeah, thanks of course as always to my partner in crime here, Monk Music. Any final thoughts here before we go off the air?
Well, it's just great being part of it, and blues is just great. I say it so often. It's my little catchphrase, if you like. So that's it. Blues is great. Listen to it often if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That and Merry Christmas, I got.
Okay, well, yeah, there you go. Yes, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everyone. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for joining us here for this Blues Chat number 10, and our sort of a nice little observance, a nice little celebration of our 3-year anniversary here. Harp and Guitar, People in Music.
3 years.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, you know?
Yeah, man.
So yeah, thanks to everybody who have been watching our content here at Harp and Guitar and leaving comments and really, showing us your support. And we're really glad that you like what we put up here because it is a little different. It's not, one content creator with one style of video. It's, like I said, we come at it from a couple of different perspectives, but I think we still drive the point home, and it's a very good format, and we just have a lot of fun doing it and have a lot of fun with the interaction with all of you blues lovers out there. So yes, thank you very much. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think, there you go. AP530, Junior Wells is a legend. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So yeah, I think that is going to do it. So thanks a lot, everyone. Take care of yourselves out there. Have a great day, a great weekend, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. And we'll try to do these more often. But of course, as all of you very well know, 7-hour time difference makes it a little challenging. So, but we definitely have fun doing it. So we'll definitely be doing these again for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Take care.